You're driving home alone at 2:13 in the morning. Your phone battery is at 3%. There's no music playing, no headlights behind you, just miles of empty road and trees bending in the wind like they're trying to whisper something through the dark. And then you see a house. Not a normal house, a massive, decaying mansion sitting far back behind rusted iron gates, one light glowing upstairs, even though everybody in town knows nobody has lived there for 30 years. Now look, most people would keep driving, right? But imagine your car suddenly stalling directly in front of those gates. Imagine hearing something knock from inside your back seat. That's the kind of fear we're talking about tonight, because the story you're about to hear isn't just about a haunted house. It's about the only man who ever walked out of it alive. And the terrifying thing is, he came back. My name is Oscar, and I spend way too much time thinking about haunted places, unexplained disappearances, and terrifying true horror stories. If you're someone who loves scary stories that keep you awake at night, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this story creeps you out. About 40 miles outside the small town of Ashmore stood a place called Blackthorn Manor. Blackthorn Manor. At first, it didn't seem strange, just an abandoned estate slowly rotting away in the woods. But over the years, people started disappearing near it. A group of teenagers broke in during the summer of 1987. None of them came back. Then, a local journalist went searching for answers. Gone. A photographer entered the property in 1994, hoping to capture proof of paranormal activity. His camera was later found, sitting in the middle of the road outside the estate, still recording. The footage showed nothing except dark hallways and breathing, heavy breathing, like someone was standing inches away from the lens. After that, the town stopped talking about the manor entirely. Parents warned their kids never to go near it. Hunters avoided the surrounding forest. Even police officers refused to patrol the road at night. And here's what nobody realized. The disappearances all had one disturbing detail in common. Every victim had reported hearing whispers before they vanished. Not voices, whispers soft enough to sound almost inside their own heads. In October of 2008, a man named Daniel Mercer returned to Ashmore after being gone for nearly 20 years. Daniel Mercer. Nobody recognized him at first. He looked exhausted, thin, pale, like someone who hadn't slept properly in years. But older residents remembered something horrifying. Daniel had been one of the teenagers who entered Blackthorn Manor back in 1987, the only one who survived, at least physically, because after he escaped, he never spoke publicly about what happened inside. Not once, until the week he returned. A local bartender later described Daniel sitting alone every night in the corner of the pub, staring at the rain against the windows, like he was expecting to see someone standing outside. One night, the bartender finally asked him, "You really went inside that house?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He just kept staring forward, then quietly said, "It doesn't let you leave." The bartender laughed nervously. Clearly you did." Daniel slowly turned toward him and whispered, "No, I mean mentally." That's when everything changed. Daniel eventually agreed to tell his story to a local writer named Claire Holloway. Claire Holloway. They met in a motel room on the edge of town during a thunderstorm. According to Claire's notes, Daniel kept checking the corners of the room while speaking, like he was afraid something was listening. He began describing the night he and his friends entered Blackthorn Manor. 5 teenagers, 1 flashlight, 1 stupid dare. Typical horror movie setup, right? Except real people don't expect horror movies to happen to them. Daniel said the front doors were already open when they arrived. That bothered him immediately, because the house looked abandoned, but not empty. Look, there's a difference. An abandoned building feels dead. This place felt aware. The air inside was strangely warm, despite the freezing rain outside. The wood beneath their feet creaked constantly, not randomly, rhythmically, like footsteps matching their movements from somewhere deeper in the house. One of Daniel's friends joked, "Maybe the house is breathing." Nobody laughed. And then they heard the whispers for the first time, faint, distant, coming from upstairs. The group should have left immediately. At this point, they absolutely should have left. Instead, they followed the whispers. The second-floor hallway was lined with enormous family portraits covered in dust, but Daniel noticed something disturbing disturbing. The eyes in the paintings looked wet. One girl in the group, Emily, suddenly stopped walking. Emily Carter Daniel asked what was wrong. She pointed toward one of the portraits. Wasn't that woman smiling before? The woman's face slowly stretched into something impossible, her smile widening far beyond human anatomy. And then the flashlight died, complete darkness. The whispers became louder, not upstairs anymore, right beside them. Daniel described hearing dozens of voices speaking at once, mumbling things he couldn't fully understand except for one phrase, repeated over and over again: "Stay with us." When the flashlight finally flickered back on, Emily was gone. Just gone. No scream, no footsteps, nothing. The hallway was empty except for a long trail of muddy footprints leading toward a red door at the far end of the corridor. A door Daniel swore hadn't been there before. Here's where it gets really disturbing. The footprints were barefoot and tiny, like a child's. One of the boys, Marcus, ran to the door and tried turning the knob. Locked. Then they heard Emily's voice from the other side, soft, crying, "Please let me out." The group panicked. Marcus slammed his shoulder against the door repeatedly until it burst open. Inside was a child's bedroom. Dust everywhere. Broken toys scattered across the floor. A rocking chair moving slowly by itself. But no Emily. Only silence. Then Daniel noticed something hanging above the bed. Photographs. Hundreds of them. Pictures of people standing inside the house. Different decades, different clothes, different faces, all staring directly into the camera with the exact same terrified expression. And at the center of the wall, a photograph taken only minutes earlier. Emily standing in the hallway, looking directly behind the camera at something smiling in the dark. Panic completely took over after that. The group tried leaving, but every hallway somehow led deeper into the manor. Doors opened into rooms that shouldn't physically exist. Windows showed forests that weren't there moments earlier. One staircase stretched downward forever. Daniel said the house no longer felt like architecture. It felt like a trap, pretending to be a building. Then they heard music, a piano playing somewhere below them, slow, uneven, like someone learning the same song over and over again. Marcus wanted to follow it. Daniel begged him not to, but fear does strange things to people. Sometimes humans move toward terror because stopping feels worse. The basement stairs were freezing cold. The deeper they went, the quieter the whispers became. And somehow that was worse, because silence in a place like that feels unnatural. At the bottom stood a massive iron door, slightly open. Inside was a ballroom, an entire ballroom hidden beneath the house. Candles burning despite decades of abandonment. A piano playing by itself, and dozens of people standing motionless around the room. Not ghosts, not exactly, more like shadows wearing human shapes. Daniel said they all turned toward the group at the exact same moment. Every head rotating together, every face smiling, too wide, too still. Then the piano stopped. One figure stepped forward from the crowd. A woman dressed entirely in white. Tall, thin, eyes completely black. Daniel said looking at her felt wrong, like staring into deep water too long. She spoke softly. "You came back," Marcus whispered. "What are you?" The woman tilted her head and smiled wider. "The house remembers everyone." That's when the shadows started moving. Not walking, gliding, fast. One of the teenagers screamed as something grabbed him from the darkness. The sound that followed, Daniel refused to fully describe during the interview. Claire later wrote that Daniel physically shook while recalling it. He only said, "It sounded wet." The group ran. Hallways twisted around them like the house was rearranging itself in real time. Doors slammed shut. Lights flickered violently. The whispers returned louder than ever. Only now they sounded excited, hungry. And then Daniel saw something impossible. The walls were moving, breathing, like flesh underneath wallpaper. Daniel eventually became separated from everyone else, completely alone. He climbed staircase after staircase until he reached the attic. And this is where the story stops feeling like a ghost story and starts feeling like a nightmare. The attic contained thousands of personal belongings: suitcases, watches, shoes, children's toys, wallets, wedding rings. Every missing person who vanished near the manor had left something behind. Like the house collected people, preserved them. Daniel heard footsteps behind him. The woman in white stood in the doorway. She looked different now, taller somehow, her neck unnaturally long, her smile stretching across her face like torn fabric. Daniel asked what the house wanted, and her answer still terrifies people. It wants to be remembered. But Blackthorn Manor seemed different. It didn't just contain evil. It needed attention, fear, visitors. Like every person who entered became part of of it, fed it, strengthened it, and Daniel realized something horrifying. The house didn't trap people physically, it trapped them psychologically first, making them lose track of reality until escape stopped feeling possible. Daniel found a small attic window and smashed it open with a metal lantern. Cold rain exploded into the room. The woman in white screamed, not angrily, painfully, as though the outside world itself hurt her. Daniel jumped 2 stories down into mud and broken branches. He shattered his ankle on impact, but he crawled through rain, through dirt, through absolute darkness. Behind him, the house groaned, not metaphorically, actually groaned, like an animal wounded in the night. Daniel reached the road just before sunrise. A passing truck driver found him unconscious beside the forest. When police searched the manor later that morning, there was nobody inside. No ballroom, no photographs, no evidence, just an empty, abandoned house. But here's what nobody realized. Daniel never truly escaped. Claire asked Daniel why he came back after 20 years. For a long time, he didn't answer. Rain tapped softly against the motel window. Then he finally whispered, "Because it followed me." Every place Daniel lived afterward became wrong. Lights flickering at 3:13 a.m. Whispers inside empty rooms. Wet footprints appearing across floors. He claimed he sometimes woke up unable to move while hearing breathing directly beside his bed. And every year, the whispers became louder, until eventually he started dreaming about the manor every single night. The same dream. The front doors opening slowly, the woman in white standing inside, waiting. Daniel looked at Claire and quietly said, "It wants me back." Claire asked if he believed the house was haunted. Daniel shook his head. "No." Then after a long silence, "I think it's hungry." 3 days after the interview, Daniel Mercer disappeared. Police searched the entire town. Nothing. Until Claire received a package with no return address. Inside was a VHS tape. No note, no explanation. Just a single label written in black ink for Claire. The tape began with static. Then footage appeared. Daniel holding a camera while walking through Blackthorn Manor at night, alone, breathing heavily. The recording shook constantly. He whispered, "If anyone finds this, don't come looking for me." The house looked different than before. Worse. The walls darker. The hallways longer. Like the building itself had aged into something more hostile. Then Daniel heard the whispers again. Only now, they clearly spoke his name. The camera turned toward the staircase, and there she was. The woman in white, standing perfectly still, smiling. Daniel started crying. Not screaming, not panicking, crying like someone realizing they were already dead. He whispered, "I tried to leave." The woman answered softly, "You never did." Then the footage distorted violently. Screaming echoed through the speakers. The camera hit the floor, and for one brief second, Claire claimed something leaned down into frame. Not human, too tall, too thin, its face opening impossibly wide. Then the tape ended. Claire never released the full recording publicly. According to her, one detail terrified her too much. At the very end of the tape, after the screen faded black, there was still audio, very faint, very distorted, but unmistakable. Daniel whispering, "There's something behind you." Claire quit journalism 6 months later, moved away, never spoke publicly again. And Blackthorn Manor, it was destroyed in a fire years afterward. Or at least, that's the official story. Because hikers still report seeing lights deep in those woods at night. Some claim they hear piano music drifting through the trees. Others swear they've seen a woman in white standing between the branches, watching them silently. But the strangest reports all describe the same thing. Whispers, soft whispers, calling people deeper into the forest, as if the house is still there, waiting, hungry, remembering. So next time you're driving alone at night, and you pass an abandoned house with one light glowing upstairs, maybe don't stop. Maybe don't even look at it too long, because some places don't want visitors. Some places want witnesses. And according to the only man who ever escaped Blackthorn Manor, once the house notices you, it never really lets you go. So yeah, sleep well tonight. And before you leave, subscribe for more terrifying stories that blur the line between reality and nightmare. Comment below and tell me, what do you think was really inside Blackthorn Manor? And if you've ever experienced something unexplained yourself, I want to hear it. Then click on the next video. Just maybe don't watch it alone after midnight.